Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillahi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in wa ba'd. So this is lesson number 69, the first lesson after Ramadan. Alhamdulillah, for Bulugh, explanation of Bulugh Al-Maram. And inshallah we're going to continue where we left off before Ramadan and Kitab Al-Tahara. Alright, so we're on well, there's different numberings and different, if you ever see like different Bulugh Al-Marams, you have different numbering. So the method that I use is the Dar es-Salam one, so which is more common in the West, and it's the 102nd hadith. But if you see in the explanation, if you go and look it up in the explanation, it's the 101st, and then I look it up in a different Bulugh al-Maram, and it's the what you call it? It's the 112th hadith. So. No, not the 112th, the 110th hadith. So it's different numbering. So don't be so concentrated on the numbering. When I put the numbers, I'm just putting the numbers based on whatever book I'm using at the time. And throughout this whole explanation, I think I've used like 3 or 4 different Bulugh al-Marams. So a lot of the times the numberings might be different, but that's not an issue. Just follow, inshallah, you follow the chapter. Because like right now we're in the Kitab al-Ghusl. So, wal-Hukm al-Junub. So this is now the hadith. This is an Ali radiallahu anhu. This is going to be the hadith that we're taking today, inshallah. We're probably only going to take this one hadith, just as kind of like a warm-up to get back into the schedule after Ramadan, inshallah, to get back to work. So, and Ali radiallahu anhu قال كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يقرئنا القرآن ما لم يكن جنبا. رواه أحمد والخمسة وهذا لفظ الترمذي وحسنه وصححه ابن حبان. So this hadith is reported on the authority of Ali radiallahu anhu, and he said that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to recite the Quran to them malam yakun junaban, any other time except for the time that he is in the state of Janaabah. All right, junub, obviously this is the state of impurity that's due to sexual activity. All right, so any other circumstance that he would recite the Quran to them. All right, however, okay, so now first off, even though he mentioned here that this he said, وَهَذَا لَفْظُ التِّرْمِذِي وَحَسَّنَ. So Tirmidhi made the hadith hasan. وَصَحَّهُ ibn Hibban. But the actual asl of the hadith is not authentic. It is not authentic. Alright, and the reason for the hadith being da'if is because in the chain of narration, fil isnad, they have a person named Abdullah ibn Salama al-Muradi. And he is da'if. Alright, his hadith is da'if. But let's look at the hadith not being. Let's just look at the hadith itself. So here, the reason why Hafiz ibn Hajar is bringing this hadith here is to show that it is not permissible to read the Quran when a person is in a state of Janaabah. All right, and we've gone over this issue before, but because obviously this was probably a while back when this issue was covered, and the authentic understanding is that even in a state of Janaabah, there's nothing to show that it is not permissible. Like I said, this issue has been covered throughout Kitab al-Tahara, probably on more than one occasion, if I'm not mistaken. So there's no authentic adilla that show that it's not permissible. And even this hadith, even if it were, let's just say that the hadith were authentic. Some of the ulama would say that this hadith is authentic. Al-Hafiz ibn Hajar, he took it as being authentic. But does this hadith show an impermissibility of reciting the Quran when a person is in a state of Janaabah, or does it show that the Prophet ﷺ didn't recite to them when he was in a state of Janaabah? So here what we see is that we have in this hadith we have a very specific scenario where the Prophet ﷺ didn't recite to them, didn't recite the Quran to them in a state of Janaabah. And again, like I said, the hadith is da'if, but let's even with the assumption that the hadith is authentic, if we took that opinion, we still, like I said, this hadith would not be sufficient to say that it is not permissible for a person that is in a state of Janaabah to recite the Quran, period. Because we have the general statement of Aisha radiallahu anha when she narrated a hadith that's in Sahih Muslim, where she said that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he called it, كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يذكر الله على كل أحيانه. So in any state that he was in, he would remember Allah. And of course, this is a very general statement, and being that she was not specific, she wasn't specific in any state that he was in. So this means whether he was in Janaabah or not in Janaabah, whether he was mutawaddi or ghayra mutawaddi, he had wudu or he didn't have wudu. And all of his scenarios, even when he was eating, when he was drinking, he would remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When he was in the majalis, when he was sitting amongst the people, he would remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in all of his states, when he was standing, when he was walking, when he was sitting, when he was lying down on his side or on his back, all of these states that he would remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So here is a very broad statement, and she did not make any type of exception. All right, and then on top of that, she, and like I said, included in that is a remembrance of Allah, because dhikrullah is also general. Yadhkurullah. So kind of yadhkurullah, which is recitation of the Quran. It could be the adhkar of sabah. It could just be general adhkar. It could be istighfar. It could be anything. So, but also the recitation of the Quran is a part of that adhkar. So this is the hadith that the ulama take to show that this is because of the generality, and there's nothing to specify. To take a general statement, something that's am, and then to make one part of that, which is something that's khas, to make it haram, which would be a recitation of the Quran when a person is in a state of Janaabah, the person has to bring dalil. Otherwise, we stay with the am, which is for all things. All things are permissible. All remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is permissible. I mean, obviously, like we have, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when he was in the khalat, when he was relieving himself in the bathroom. So here we have an exception. So, and being that we don't have any authentic adillah that show that it's not permissible to recite the Quran when the person is in a state of Janaabah. However, as again that was mentioned in previous lessons, and this is just a revision, is that it's from husn al-adab. It's from from the good manners, is that the person recites the Quran in the state where he's in the state of tahara. Even like for myself, I have the opinion. I don't. If a person recites the Quran when he's in the state of Janaabah, I have the opinion that that's permissible, but I won't do it. I will never do it. I'll take a shower, I'll take a ghusl, and then I'll recite the Quran. I will not recite the Quran when I'm in the state of Janaabah. Never. I don't care what the situation is, unless it's something that's absolutely daruri. Like if I'm in a state of Janaabah and somebody asks me about an ayat, and I had to pick up the mushaf and read from the mushaf to explain something to a person, that's the only circumstance that I would read. So even though I see the opinion as being that it's permissible, I won't do it. And it's just out of just good manners with the Quran. But as far as a person who did it, who was in the state of Janaabah, and he grabbed the mushaf and started reciting the Quran, I wouldn't say anything to him, because there's nothing that's going to take this out of, like, to make him, to prove that he's doing something that's impermissible. Because, like, again, this hadith doesn't show the impermissibility of doing it. It just shows that the Prophet ﷺ didn't do it. But then we have but this is when he read to the people. But then we have the general statement of Aisha radhiyallahu anha when she said that the Prophet ﷺ kana yadhkurullah ala kulli ahyanihi. And also, just as a revision, and for the people that might be listening to this lesson for the first time and they didn't hear the previous lessons, the people using the ayah from the Quran, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, La yamassahu ila al-mutahharun, like that nobody touches it except for the ones who are purified. That is a reference to the malaika. Alright, so that's not a reference to the Quran, and us. We're not the mutahharun. The mutahharun are the malaika. And then also it goes back to, like, what are the people? What's their understanding of the ayat? La yamassahu ila al-mutahharun. Is it a khabar, or is it a khabar that's supposed to be for amr? So is it, or nahi, in this case a nahi, that is like basically la tamassahu ila an takun tahiran. So, but the point is that if it's a khabar, then that's not correct, because the Quran, a kafir could pick up the Quran and touch it. So I mean, it's not that. So if it's a khabar that's supposed to be understood as a nahi, like a prohibition, but I mean that's not the understanding, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the previous ayah, and if kitab maknoon, kitab maknoon is not referring, like, because this kitab, the Quran that we have, is not fi kitab maknoon. So it's not hidden from this. This is not in Lawh al-Mahfuz. This is bayna aydina. So this is referring to the Quran and the book when it's in the Sama', and the only ones that come down with it the angels, because Jibril, he comes to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam with the revelation, and these are the mutahharun, the malaika. But the insan, he could yukun mutahhar or could yukun ghayr mutahhar. So even a junub, he could touch it. You know, there's nothing going to prevent him from touching it. Even if it's not permissible, he can still grab it and read it. And even like a kafir can grab the Quran and read it. I mean, there was one story of a brother in Atlanta that he memorized 2 juz of the Quran before he even became Muslim. He was in an Arabic program, and he went to one of his teachers, and he asked him, "How can I learn Arabic?" You know, his teacher in this program in Atlanta, he's Egyptian, and I hope I'm narrating the story correctly because this was a long time ago that I heard it. But I mean, it was at least two Jews. But he said when he went to the teacher, the teacher told him, he said, if you really want to get strong in the Arabic language, you have to memorize the Quran. He said this is the best way to learn the Arabic language quickly is to start memorizing the Quran. So he started memorizing the Quran. He wasn't even Muslim at the time. So he memorized at least 2 juz from the Quran before he became Muslim. Then he took a shahada, and then he continued memorization and continued in the Arabic program until he was able to translate in Arabic before he even left America, and he finished memorization of the Quran. So, but I mean, you see, he was memorizing the Quran, and he wasn't even Muslim. So I mean, this right here is referring to the book that is in the sama, is in the sky, is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not referring to the Quran that is between our, Baina Aydina, is with us here. And because it's not fi kitabin maknoon, and the mutahharun is referring to the malaika, all right, the angels. All right, so as far as using this ayah as to show that it's impermissible for the junub to touch the Quran, this is not correct. It's not the understanding of the Salaf. It might be, you might find it with some opinions, but it's not the stronger opinion. It's the marjuh. It's not the rajih. Because with the 2 opinions, you always have the rajih, which is a strong opinion, and the marjuh, which shows that the evidence is against that opinion. The evidence is against that opinion. So Allah musta'an. And in this case, because there's no hadith here that's authentic to support it, and also if you go back and you look at the aqwal of the Salaf, when they talk about the mutahharun, referring to the malaika, you'll see most of the Salaf were on that opinion. So Allah musta'an. So as far as like the person reciting the Quran when he's in a state of Janaabah, it is permissible, but it is from good manners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and with his book, with his word, that we be in a state of tahara. And we be in a state of tahara. But as far as it being wajib, then no. It's not wajib for you to be in a state of wudu, and it's not wajib for you to be in a state of complete tahara. So Allah musta'an. But, we do the best that we can. Allah musta'an. Wallahu a'lam. Wa ila huna subhanaka wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu